coffee. Got my coffee here. Yum, cheers. Salud. That coffee. Sort of just been doing 1 cup a day, but you know, I love my coffee. So what you can do about it? Okay, let's get started. Kundalini rising. Let's get into the Kundalini again. The breath of life, using the physical breath to heal the body. Pretty powerful stuff. Okay. Let's see here. Where were we? Okay, the next group of physical afflictions related to those areas of the body where there's less possibility of association, neurotic conflict due to specific meaning associated with these areas. Because such meanings are multi-level and present at a very complex structure. In the Indian psychology of Kundalini Yoga, at least 2 levels of the mind are differentiated, without certainty of knowledge. Manas in Sanskrit and mind intellect that has certainty, buddhi in Sanskrit. In the Western science of philosophy, the levels of the mind and the type of cognition from complicated, frequently self-contradictory map. Again, it is the paradoxes that we have in this world, which trip us up, right? Paradoxes sort of like can get us confused. And it's trying to understand how to work through the paradoxes to find the middle path. How do we find the balance between the two? How do we find what works for us, that secret sauce, that they call it the Goldilocks, right? The Goldilocks place. And think about it for even like with Earth itself, right? And like Earth itself, we know that we're in the Goldilocks place because we can survive as a species. Like we ourselves survive as a species. And there's life on the planet. So it's that Goldilocks state that you get to be in. Where is that? And how do we find that between each paradox that we are experiencing in the world? Because everything comes down to sort of this paradox, right? Which is what we can call a duality, or what we experience as a duality, this versus that, or us versus them. It's the black, the white, the up, the down. And that's why we experience duality, because there is the existence of duality here, but it really is part of the same continuum. So how do we then find the gap, bridge the gap, know that it is one, it's not separate, but that it's one, and then bridge the gap together so that we can find that constant state of harmony and peace and tranquility, which is that balance. Okay. Good morning, Hemp. Good morning. Say good morning. I don't see anybody who's on here. It's not showing me your guys' names for some reason. I don't know why Facebook does that, but good morning to you. And cheers, salud to the coffee. Cheers to your beautiful spirits. Okay, now let's see. So to differentiate, what the importance of understanding Kundalini pathology is to differentiate between the thinking that relates to solving mundane problems and the frequent proverbial set of deep existential beliefs that govern our behavior and relationships with life. These thoughts or beliefs concern what is real and unreal, what it means to die and to exist, what is mortal and what is not. There are a group of centers in the body that are specifically associated with the mental processes. While one of these processes are better than others, some of them are truer to the reality of spirit, to the enlightened state of the mind that accepts the primacy of the ideal of spirit. Others are mostly true to reality of the unenlightened mind, the premises associated with purely materialistic orientation. These mental domains are associated with structures of the subtle body that are called knots in the psychology of Kundalini. We've talked about this before. So it's the material, immaterial world, and the ability for part of our brain to realize that we have a connection to something deeper than what is material, that we connect. It's like the dream world in some ways, where we go to sleep and there's this whole other world that exists and we don't really know how it got there. We can't really touch it. Are we really touching it? Are we really there? But that dream world seems to not live by the laws of the earth plane, this physical, tangible world, right? It's like we change scenes in a dream like instantaneously. We fly. There's things that don't necessarily make sense in this world. So it's that creative space of we don't know what we don't know and that anything is possible. But then how do we look at it from the material space? And some people may be so ingrained in the material that they forget to connect to the soul. Okay. So it's just looking at it. What is it that you choose to do? Do you choose to look at the soul? Are you wanting to open up the space to allow that to happen? And it's up to you. It's a choice, right? It's your choice. What do you choose? Okay, in contrast to the other structures of the subtle body, such as the chakras, the meridians, the knots, the threshold, places where the current of Kundalini energy or the process of spiritual awakening tends to become stuck in specific ways. If the Kundalini leads one to the unveiling of one's essential self and to a recognition of the realness of the ideal world, spirit as the essence of the self is mostly veiled in the zones of the subtle body knots. Thus, the obstructions or the conflicts in those areas are related to the dynamics of deep understanding of one's nature, as opposed to the dynamics of the simple neurotic conflicts. And so I would say that what it's saying is that one's nature is how we interconnect to the material world. How do we move through the material world? How are things in operation? What is the nature of a human function? We know that we function as humans, that we have the fight flight with the sympathetic parasympathetic systems, right? Where the sympathetic is fight flight freeze and parasympathetic is like that relaxed state. And we know we're in that relaxed state when our tongue rests on the roof of our mouth. It does something. It changes the chemicals in the body. When we're in fight, flight, and freeze, we tense up. And why? Because we're preparing ourselves for something to happen. That's the nature of who we are. That's the function of the body. So our body has these functions, again, that we can't, we could try to control them. We can learn to live with them. We can learn to move through them. We can learn to shift the energy. But it's just there. It's an operation in the very nature of who we are as a human. There's certain functionalities, like breathing, again, is a functionality. Hearing, seeing, and for those who can't see or hear, they heighten other senses. And that becomes that nature of their human body. But it is how our body operates in the material world, like the reality and the nature of who we are and how we engage our bodies naturally. Not from the sense of what our brain is thinking about it, but how our body functions in a natural state of being. In the natural state of being, good morning, Nisha, our body will function. If we just laid there, we'll just say this, if we just laid there, and I'm talking about someone who's already developed, and perhaps even a baby, but for adults, let's just say adults, we're looking at adults and they're laying there in the bed and they're just still. Their body will continue to function in its natural state, okay? The mind itself will go all over the place, but if we took the mind out, the body itself will continue to operate. That's the natural state of beingness. It's the functionality of the body. So the heart's going to beat still, right? Your digestion stuff's going to move. Your cells are going to do what they need to do. Oh, bless me. Sorry, didn't mean to sneeze in your guys' face. Don't worry, we're social distanced. So the natural state of your body is the functionality of, and in this particular dimension. Now, the way that we view the body is a different function, right? And so they're saying there's these two functions that are happening. the very nature of who we are as a species. We eat, we drink, we communicate, we walk around, we touch things, we see things, we hear things, we make noises, right, out of our mouth. We, like the basic stuff. We what else? Our heart just naturally beats. Our cells naturally shed and restore themselves, right? Our body will go into this state of autophagy, which is like the recellular structure renewal of cells during the nighttime when we sleep, why rest is so important. Okay, so that's what it's talking about, okay? So the self is mostly veiled in the zones of the subtle body knots. Thus, the obstruction or conflicts of those areas are related to the dynamics of the deep understanding one's nature as opposed to the dynamics of the simple neurotic conflicts. While delusion about one's enlightened nature are not neurotic conflicts per se, they are in a sense afflictions associated with Kundalini process itself. When energy gets stuck in one of these zones, it develops a physical pathology specific to that zone. As a Kundalini process progresses, this stuckness clears, we become more aligned with our truth of our nature, and the symptoms disappear. The first knot is located at the area below the navel. In the Indian Kundalini related to metaphysics, it is known as the knot of Brahma, the creator. So this is Brahma, the creator. So Brahma is sort of the creator. We call it God. People call it universe. We all have different names, but to me, it's the same thing, right? Because there's no way we can have one word for this thing that's grand. As soon as we name it, it's not that. And we really don't have, nobody can say, oh, God is this or God is that. We don't, no, that's not possible, okay? But we can say, so the Brahma, again, is that connection to God, the creator, okay? And so we know that that's at the bottom root, not the root, but the bottom near the pelvic bone. Okay, it's before the root chakra where that exists, that energy. And so in the Kundalini, we learn to control that part of our body and connect it into spirit or to the divine. And that's really, again, that's what Kundalini is about. It's a process, right? And it may not be for everybody. Kundalini may not be for everybody, but it's a powerful tool if you're searching for a practice to connect, if you're searching for a practice that you would like to support you to restore your body into aliveness, because it can help you reignite that aliveness within you. Again, it clears out the obstruction in the body, does a lot of different things. So it helps you to and it can help you to sort of get rid of the obstruction in the body. Is there other ways? Absolutely. Kundalini is one way. It's just a way. It's not the way, but it's a way. And there are other ways, like I'm currently going to acupuncture. That's another practice that you can do. The acupuncture, again, it's releasing those energy fields in the body. So what you're trying to do, or what you're doing when you're tapping into these body practices, what you're doing is you're saying, how do I utilize the vessel that was given to me to connect to the divine? And I believe that Kundalini is one of the best practices. And why? Because I've experienced what it's like to completely be in the state of bliss. And when someone does this process, there's a reason why people do this process. It's because other people have, again, felt bliss in doing the process of Kundalini. There's other techniques. There's other strategies. This is not the only one, but this is the one we're talking about, or I'm talking about at this point. Why? To support you, so that you can feel good in your body, so that you can clear out the obstruction, so that this body doesn't become the reason that you don't get to create your divine purpose. Another practice you can put in your toolbox. There's so many tools. Okay, so the perception of the material world. Okay, let's see. The first knot is located at the navel. In the Indian Kundalini related to metaphysics known as the knot of Brahma, the creator, the essence of the knot, understanding the subtle realms underlying the perceptions of the material world. It is the understanding of the different degrees of materiality, from the gross to the subtle. Clearing obstructions in this area can be associated with the development of the prostate cancer men, or fibromatosis, and various pathological conditions of the uterus in women, which is something that I could look at. So very good. I'm glad I read that because it's information for me. I have a lot of issues that happen in my uterus. And so really trying to untangle that right now is why I'm doing acupuncture, to figure out how to untangle the limitations that I have on my body. So it's really getting clear about where you feel that limitation or obstruction in the body, and how do I start to, or how do you start to work on untangling that for yourself. Everybody has a different symptom. Everybody's going through and experiencing different things. Men obviously could not experience what I experience in the uterus. Not possible because they don't have a uterus. But I'm experiencing some sensation, something in my uterus, right? And something in my womanhood. Something is showing up. Why? What is causing that? What is the real deep issues behind what is causing this to actually be stressed and cause pain and suffering in me, right? Pain that I, like the other day, really couldn't handle. Like pain to the point where I was crying, like it literally was hurting so bad. And asking myself, where is the root of why this suffering has come into my life? Where is it? Why? How can I support myself to move that obstruction? Kundalini is a practice that I could utilize. It's one thing that I can do if I wanted to really release the obstruction in that area. But again, there's acupuncture, there's also herbalists, there's shamans, there's different healers in the world that you can go to, massage. There's chiropractors, there's different ways to approach it. And I use an integrated approach. I don't just go, oh, this is the one and done, but I'm like, okay, there's this and there's that. And I use all of them to sort of try to trigger where the issues are, and digging deep into myself, which takes vulnerability, right? So it takes me being able to understand what built up traumas are in there that are causing me not to be able to release that energy, because there are traumas. There's traumas in my life that I'm sure that I haven't dealt with, that I may not even know still exist there. Could be from when I was so young that I don't really, perhaps I just maybe forgot them, and maybe they'll resurface and I can release the energy that was sort of stuck there, just kind of and causing the pain and suffering to come out in my uterus. So healing the uterus, part of me and the healing journey, and I'll tell you from my own perspective what I've done for my health. My health issues, again, are iron and my menstruation and my uterus and stuff like that. So for you guys, obviously different, whatever it is for you, but trying to really unpack what it is, the connection, is it the stories that I held against, or had with my parents? Is it the stories that I had within my childhood growing up? What was the trauma around the experience of this coming out in my, my uterus or in my feminine parts? What was the connection? How was I able to switch it, move it out of my body, or to switch it? And there was a point, okay, in my health journey where I was like, I just get rid of it, take it out. I think I was like 19, 20. I was like, just give me a hysterectomy. The doctors say, no, we cannot. You're like 19, 20. You may want children and da, da, da. And I said, no, I don't want children. Like, well, we can't do it. You're too young. They wouldn't let me do it. And rightfully so, I'm glad they didn't, because what happened is I realized that I was denying part of myself, the fact that I'm feminine and that I bleed, right, every month. And I was denying that in myself. And I was like, oh, maybe that's why I'm having issues, because I'm just denying it. I don't want it. And instead of embracing it and loving it and nurturing it, maybe that's why I'm having all this pain. Could be part of the reason why. And yes, it has been part of the reason, but not always. There's other things that are really built up in there, causing pain and obstruction and suffering for me at the physical level. So learning how to release that physical pain in the body. Good morning, Renee. Learning how to release the physical pain in the body. What is it that I can do? How can I release the pain? So again, the practices that we utilize can help us with our body. So it could be different. Well, it will be different for everybody, right? We all have our own unique things that are going on in our own body. Chronic pain is huge for a lot of people, headaches, migraines, respiratory issues. There's so many different things, heart issues, cholesterol, diabetes, all these different things that are circulating in individuals. How do we then utilize the information we know about the healing work, right? And that goes back to, again, the shamanistic practices, the Kundalini practices, the acupuncture, the ancient tradition medicines that were utilized to sort of release not only the body itself, but the trauma that may be held in that energy. And that's what it's saying. Okay. So very cool. Next, the knot of the Vishnu Granithi in Sanskrit. It is located right above the center of the diaphragm. Transitioning through this knot involves important transformation in one's perception of self and others in one's relationship with other people. While Kundalini energy dwells below the knot of Vishnu, we perceive and relate to others as objects without consciousness. When Kundalini arises above Vishnu Granthi, our relationship with other people deepen and become more complex. We are capable of perceiving other people as filled with the same depth of intensity of life and consciousness as ourself. In psychological terms, this is the transition from object relations to real relationships, the perception of consciousness in the order. Thus, this threshold of Kundalini is connected with the veiling of the universal nature of consciousness, the sameness of self at the heart of all beings. So again, it's the ability to recognize, like, it's almost like namaste. That word is so powerful. Namaste meaning I see the God within you. I see God within you. Namaste, I see God within you. You see God within me. And it's that ability to recognize that we're not just this object, but that we have consciousness within us and that we can develop relationships based on that consciousness. Because there's some kind of a critical thinking or there's some kind of creative thinking happening in the individual, that there's this understanding that we are a living being in a world that is perceiving and experiencing events as they come to us. And we recognize that in others. So we understand that the individual before us has a story that is a past, a present, and a future. And that the past has sort of shaped them into this present individual. But they're not just a thing that's just there. And so we recognize the God within them. We recognize that they are a physical being that have their own story, that have their own experiences, that can use their own voice to carry out vibrational frequencies to describe the experience that they're having. So it deepens our relationship to other humans, right? It allows us to connect and say, I see you. I see you. And I understand that you are God and I am God. And I see God within you as you see God within me because we are an extension of God. So that is the next chakra in the system. Okay, Vishnu, and then I forget the other one. But again, so we have Brahma, we have Vishnu, and it's connected to the energy fields. Again, it's a practice of connecting to the body and just realizing that there's a process that we can utilize. Okay, So it's up to you. You can explore Kundalini or don't. Totally your choice. I haven't been 100% committed to Kundalini at this point. I'm 100% committed to acupuncture, and will tell you that Kundalini practice is a phenomenal practice, and that when you do it, it really opens up the channels of your spiritual energy. Or I should say, it opens up the channels so that spiritual energy can flow through you. That's probably a better way to put it. Okay, awesome. So there you have it. Today is Wednesday. I'll forget the days. But have a great Wednesday. Um, and God, this week's going by pretty quickly, huh? And then I will see you guys tomorrow. I have some pretty exciting news. Working on some stuff that I would love for you guys to participate in, if you're willing. I tried to do the meditation and I spaced it out last night, so I'm not doing too good on my commitment to the meditation. So there you go. I'm human. Sometimes I fall off commitment. So I just want to acknowledge that I didn't stick to my commitment. And I get clear why I have my own blockages around doing this abundance that I really want to do, because I want to be able to do that. Maybe I need to do it in a small group of individuals who are willing to just get on together on a Zoom call or something. And then we just practice that together. Give me an opportunity to meet the individuals who show up to these as well. So maybe that's something we can do. And I think we have, some people may be interested in doing it if they're open, and I can facilitate that for the individuals. I think it would be fun, right? Okay, so there you have it. I love you guys. Have a great day. And then I will be seeing you guys tomorrow. Bye.